Hello guys, my name is Base Gaming and welcome to a video where I show how to use Racetrack Builder, RTB and Blender in combination, because RTB is scuffed and the more you can do in Blender the better for your track and for yourself and your sanity. So basically a little rundown what I'm going to show you. The things I really want to show is, where is it? How to create separate kn5 files like this. So as you can see, I have under content tracks in my track. You have several kn5 files, which speeds up the loading process, but especially allows you to do multiple layouts, and you can insert any kind of object. For example, I have this beautiful blimp flying around in the sky, 2 of them actually. And you could do animations, you can do reverse grids, different layouts, you can import any kind of object, for example bridges and tunnels and whatever else. And that's kind of neat. So what I'm going to show you today is how to split them up, how to declare them, so how the folder structure etc. works, how Assetto Corsa knows how to use those files in the first place, and also how to import your own objects from Blender. So what we are going to do, we are going to use Blender to actually put spectators into the track, so you can learn how to do spectators. So it's a double tutorial, isn't that great? Alright. So, we're in Racetrack Builder first. First I'm going to show you how to export the separate things. And obviously don't forget this is abandonware, so the easy method would be export everything, create separate files, and that's it. But this is abandonware and our beautiful developer doesn't feel the need to update this program in any way, even though it's a good program, but it really needs a lot of updates. This button is scuffed and bugged, so what you have to do is you export each single one by itself. You export the terrain, press OK, that's cool. Disable, next one, OK, and so on. I know it's tedious, but I mean, in the end, for example, if you change up some objects, you only have to export the objects and nothing else, which is faster when importing in kseditor, and it's faster while exporting from Racetrack Builder, so that's kind of nice. To show you how that works, I'm just going to export the terrain, for example. Press OK. Meanwhile, I can go into the racetrack building folder, and as we can see, my folder is called Halifax. So my export folder is called Halifax_GP_041, and what it does is it creates this Halifax_GP_041.fbx. Now obviously if I was going to export again and export something else, it's going to overwrite that file. So I have to rename it. That was the terrain, and what I do is I just keep the name the same and I just add terrain, whatever pronunciation, and add that to the end and go on with my day, go on through all of the objects. Now I won't be doing that because as you can see I already have them exported in that current version. And now what you want to do, if you want to have reference points, it is no problem to import the terrain in Blender. What is a problem is if you have the objects, all of these trees, all of the buildings, basically everything which you can see on the track is included in the objects Fbx file. So what I have here, you can see the file sizes, and then, well, bam, you have the biggest file with 121 MB is just all of these objects. And if you try to import that in Blender, good luck, Blender will probably die a horrible death. So what you want to do is to have some reference points. First, what are we going to do? We want to add spectators, as I've told you. And obviously you need to have some reference points. You need to know where the grandstands are to add spectators. So what you want to do is delete everything except for the grandstands and export them separately, just to have some reference. So obviously save before deleting everything. Then you take your move existing objects thing, and what you can do is just drag and hold your mouse and go over each of these objects. Mark everything, delete, and delete, and delete everything except for the grandstands. So yeah, you get the gist. So I would go like this and only have that left, and I have some hidden secret grandstands in here. Yeah, that's basically it. So you get the gist, and then when you export it, you have only very few objects which you have to load into Blender. Let me reverse that. So obviously you would do that, which I've already done. And those objects are halifaxgp underscore terrain and halifaxgp underscore spectators, which should be seats. There it is. Or I think it's spectator. Then we can finally switch to Blender. Is that amazing? So what you want to do is make a new scene, delete everything because we don't need shit. So what you want to do is go to File, Import. We are going to import an Fbx file, obviously. And first of all, we're going to import our terrain. The scale in Blender, so when you're going to from Racetrack Builder to Blender, you have to insert a scale of 100. The forward and up orientation should be -Z forward and Y upwards. Import. That can take a while, but don't worry, it usually doesn't take too long for terrain. I'm going to make a new collection just to keep it clean and move these two in there. Now we can disable them at the same time, which is kind of nice. Let's scroll it a little bit, and what you can see is, oh shit, our view is scuffed. No problem, this little arrow here, and view, and then you go to the ending point where your viewpoint clips. We're going to put it to 10 kilometers in my case because my map is not that huge. It's like 5-6 kilometers from left to right, so that's fine. And now we have our terrain, which is pretty neat. The next thing we want to do is we've just exported our grandstands separately. So what we're going to do is have our grandstands in here. And File, Import, Fbx. And we're gonna take the spectators. I think it's spectators. Scale 100. The orientation is correct. There you go. Maybe it was. Oh no. Wrong file. Wrong file. Delete. File. Export. Import. Fbx. It's the seats.fbx. Gonna take a while. As you can see, that's only the grandstands in like 5 trees which I didn't delete, and it's already taking a while. But don't worry, it's not dying, Blender is not dying, it will import eventually as long as you have enough RAM. And as you can see, reset the viewpoint. As you can see, we have our grandstands and the trees which I didn't manage to delete, or didn't bother to delete. We can also look at the texturized version, which is this button right here. Also advise you to look a short and quick tutorial on YouTube if you don't know how to use the cam in Blender, because it's not intuitive, but once you have it figured out, it's not that hard. As you can see, I'm managing. Now as you can see, where are my grandstands? Yeah, basically they're there, but the grandstand texture and the ground are not interacting really well. And that's why we have these collections. I can just disable the terrain with one click, and there they are. They are our grandstands. Yeah, that's beautiful. And the positions, etc. are correct. Alright, next step. We want to have spectators. Make a new collection. And the specs are going in here, the spectators. So basically, how that works is Assetto Corsa takes a surface, then you tell it to put spectators from a texture file on this plane in a random way, and then it happens. It's magic. So what we want to do is we click on this Z button here, then we have the top view. And then what we want to do is insert a new cube. So the way this works is, let me show you from the side. So the way this works is you drag and drop, you release the button, and then you move upwards, downwards, and there you have a cube. That's cute. Delete. So, back to business. What we want to have is a nice surface on this seat thing, on this grandstand. So we're making a cube, and I just click again because we don't need any depth to it. It just needs to be a flat surface in our case. Now we obviously have to move it down because I want to position it right on top of this. Yeah, like this. Take the rotation tool. Turn it around a little bit. Yeah, that should be fine, I think. Yeah, a little bit more. Doesn't have to be too perfect. The people won't notice anyway. And yeah, that's about right, I think. Yeah, that's fine. And now we have a surface for people to stand on. Now one thing you have to note, and that's really important, whenever you make something like this, it doesn't have a texture. And kseditor and Assetto Corsa really freak out about it. So you have to give it at least some texture. So what I usually do is, you can just take any texture in the map, that's fine. For example, let's give it, what's that? That's a texture. That's surely one. And ta-da, you have a texture. Or you can also do the lazy way. What I usually do is, when I have a lot of objects, I just click on it, control click on another object, and then control L, link materials, and now it just took the material of whatever I selected. In that car, it seems to be a safety car. There it says safety. Cool! You can also rename those files. That's spec 1. In my case, you can rename it to whatever you want. And we are already ready for export. File. Export. Export the Fbx file. Now we want to keep everything clean and tidy, so I'm going to go into the racetrack building folder, into the export folder once again. And what we are exporting is an Fbx file, which we can open in kseditor. So the way I usually name my files is halifax_gp_, and in that case it's the spectator file. Spectator 2, because I already have one file obviously. Now the scale when going from Blender to Racetrack Builder, so if you're making XPack assets, or when going from Blender to kseditor, you always have to input the scale 0.01. We only want to export the selected object, which is our plane, our spectator plane here, our surface. And the other things should be standard, but yeah, usual things, forward, minus Z forward, and up is Y up. The rest, copy it, it's the basic standard things. Export FBX. And now you already have an object which you can import into Assetto Corsa. We are going to kseditor. Add time. Are you looking for your new favorite track? Do you want to support the guy who just helped you with a lot of frustration? Do you want to support the dude who just made a 24-minute tutorial on how to use Blender so you don't have to use fucking Racetrack Builder for everything? Check out Halifax GP on Race Department, link down below, version 0.8 or more, depending on when you're looking at it. It's a beautiful, close and nice track. Go ahead, click on it, drive it, experience it. Drive with GT3 cars and an AI race. It's really good. It's really good fun. Trust me. Add over. Back to kseditor. That is the next step we have to do. With kseditor open, we are going to open Fbx and we are going to open our newly created Spectator 2. We see all of the models, and as we can see, we have Spectator 2 indeed imported into the kseditor. It's already at the right position. There it is. Whoa, and I've lost it. Double click to find it again, and there it is. Now, as this is specifically meant as a hybrid tutorial how to make spectators as well, what I'm going to do is disable cast shadow and disable is renderable, so basically it is there, but it's invisible. Also, if you didn't have a texture applied, this here would be red, it would be, say, missing texture null, and you wouldn't be able to export. So always keep in mind you need a texture. And now that I've turned it invisible, you should probably save persistence first of all, so you don't have to do it each time after exporting. And what you can do is save the kn5 file as track. I have a separate folder with all of my kn5 files, and then I would name it something like halifax_gp_spec for spectators or whatever .kn5. Now that we have done that, we can go to, where's the folder? Yeah, that's one of them, and that's the other one. We go into the folder where we've put all our kn5 files, and we copy them to our main folder of our track. In my case, content, tracks, Halifax GP. And you just copy paste all of your kn5 files. Now you have to tell Assetto Corsa, hey, we have to use these beautiful files in rendering. As you can see, I have my objects, I have my string objects, the walls, etc. I have the wall where the collision walls are, the track by itself, the terrain, That start finish file, that's really important. So the spawn points, the checkpoint, time gates, the pit lane where all of the cars are located in pit lane, and the hot lap spawn point. And I have done all of that in reverse, so I can have a second layout. And now you have to tell them which ones of these to use. So now how do you do that? I can go into Content Manager just for a second so you can see how that looks. There it is. So those are my two layouts, and the file names are decided by the folder names. So in that case, my first layout I've decided to call Halifax_GP, but you could also just call the folder A. The second one is the same name _reverse. And now to tell them which one is which, you have to go to models_ and then the name of your folder. So in my case, it is models_Halifax_GP.ini for the first layout. We can go into that to look at it. And as you can see, I've just told Assetto Corsa to use all of these objects. It's pretty simple: model 0, model 1, model 2, etc. The file is obviously the file name. The position and rotation stays at 0 because we have done correct scaling, and yeah, it just works, as you can see. Also, if it doesn't work for some reason, for example, what I did once is I added a blimp, which is kind of cute. So I've added a blimp like this. I've wrote it down as a blimp. It's blimp model 7, and for some reason my objects didn't want to load. I don't know why, but it just didn't. So what I did, best bug fix ever, and I'm going to tell you right now so you don't get frustrated if it doesn't work. Here you go, that was the fix. I just changed the order of how the things are getting loaded in, and that fixed it for me. So now the objects can load. I don't know why that's the case, but if something doesn't load, just change the order and try it again. If it then works, great. If it doesn't, ask me in the comments, I don't care. Alright, we can delete this. Yeah, and Control S, save it, and it works. Now obviously you have to know what are the folder structures for the different layouts. So we have the extension and UI folder as usual in the main folder. Then you have these subfolders, which are the layouts once again, and there you have the AI, because different layouts need different AI lanes most of the time. And you have the data folder, which obviously has things like the AI hints, the cameras, the DRS zones, basically everything changes when the direction changes. So yeah, you have that. And the minimap.png, the map.png, that's also in a separate folder. So basically copy paste if you have the same layout, just in reverse. Yeah, it's not that hard. Now one really cool tip, as we are right here, what you can do is obviously make a reverse layout. The way you would go about that is, all of my models are still missing. Let me press Ctrl Z just for a second. Once again, maybe. Yeah, there you go. So what you can do is, I've just turned around, just for lulz, because I could. I just turned around each of these points, you know, like put that here and, oh, wrong car. So yeah, I would put that here, and then I have the starting grid, and I've put it like over here. It should turn around at some point. It's kind of scuffed. There you go. And now I have a reverse grid. I just turn around each of the checkpoints, the goal, and so on. The start finish line, I mean, and exported a separate file. And that's it. That's how you get a reverse grid. No, we were working on Spectators. I didn't forget, don't worry. We go back to our folder, to our main folder. And what I have here is the spec file. That's where my square is at. So obviously, if we would look at Blender, it would look something like this. I have a little surface here, I have a surface here, I have a surface here. And also because we have the terrain on Blender, I've loaded the terrain only without the objects, and then I've put like a surface here on the ground, and here a surface, and then we have some trackside spectators, which is pretty neat. Now how do we tell Assetto Corsa to load these in as spectators? Well, actually there's a pre-made function in Assetto Corsa, it's not CSP. and that should be under Halifax GP data. It is camera underscore facing dot ini. We go into that. And now, as we can see, we had the surface spec 1. So if you go back to Blender, that is exactly what we've called this beautiful surface. And also if you go in here, we can see our invisible surface is spec 1. So in the camera facing.ini we have camera facing 0, camera facing 1, etc. for each of the surfaces. And no, you can't do this. The game doesn't allow it, so you have to actually make a new one each time, a new entry. And you would go about surface equals spec01, which is my name. You can name it whatever you want. Elements equals 30. This is how many humans does it spawn on the surface. The size of the people, I will leave a link down below with a formula where you can actually look at it, how it works, how the size is calculated. The texture, where it takes out the people, the texture rows and columns, which I'm going to show you in a second. Whether they are shaded, which you should put to yes, because obviously you have shadows through the trees, etc. And then you have the diffuse and ambient light. So diffuse is how much light they give off themselves, I think, I'm not sure. But ambient is how much they're affected by the surrounding light. So if your people stand out because they're in the shadow, but they are really bright even though they're in the shadow, then drop the value a little bit. It was 0.1 or something by default. I went to 0.43 and that worked out perfectly. And as you can see, I have a smaller surface here, so only 10 people. I have a really small surface here, so only 8 people spawn. And I have some huge with 50, 45, etc. people spawning there. And yeah, that's basically it. So now we can also look at the texture if you want to see how that works. Data. As we can see, my people are from the default textures coming with Assetto Corsa, which is content, texture, and where is it? People dot people stand DDS. I can open it with an image viewer. Well, Photoshop it is, I guess. Okay, so I've loaded up the file just so you can see it. So basically how that works, it's a grid, and it looks at, as you can see, it has 2 rows and 11 columns, so 2 times 11 textures, and basically it just rasterizes it, and it knows, like, let me make a rectangle. So basically it knows, okay, that's the first texture, and it takes these textures at random, you know? I think that makes sense. So it just knows which textures to use. It's basically the same as grass effects, sorry. If you've ever used grass effects, you know exactly how that works. And if you save that, that's it. Magic happens and you have spectators. That's all. That's like everything. It's that easy. And obviously now you could go to Blender and you can import your track. And then you see where the track is. You put a beautiful tunnel over it. You take a bridge, you put a bridge in there. You export them as kn5 files. You declare them. And then you have suddenly bridges and tunnels and everything else inside of Assetto Corsa. And that's really cool. What you can also do is you can obviously, when you're in, let me change that to true again. If you have such an object and you put that at the coordinate 0, 0, so you don't play around with this, you just put your object right here in the middle on default position. If you have that, you can also make an XPack out of it. So you have the XPacker, search other tutorials for that, but that's basically the same thing if you want to have your objects inside of Racetrack Builder. You can also do it with Blender, just export as FBX and make an XPack out of it. Yeah, that's basically everything I have to show you, I think. If any questions are left out, I know that we just did a 25-minute tutorial. But if you have any questions, there is a Racetrack Building Discord down below. Check that out. Check out my track Halifax GP. You should really do that. And yeah, check out all of the links below. That's basically it. Also, if you do make tracks and I helped you, you can leave a comment and tell me the name of the track, the race department name, and I'll search it up probably. Thanks for watching. That was way too long. Racetrack Builder is scuffed. Goodbye. Have a good one. Bonus clip! So basically what I thought is, while I'm here, you can also take any kind of object and make it move. So what I've decided to show you is the blimp you see on a lot of tracks. So you just take the blimp.kn5 file, you go to your models, and then what you can do is declare a dynamic object, or rather reference would be the correct term, I think. Dynamic object 0, 1, etc. The probability of it to spawn is 100%, ignore the multi thing. The file in this case, obviously the blimp.kn5 file, the position mode is in this case random because I wanted to spawn in a random sphere around that coordinate. So that's the center position. It's pretty easy to find out. It's the x coordinate, the y coordinate, so the height, and the z coordinate. Pretty intuitive, just try it out and you'll see immediately. And then it spawns in a random radius around, so that's how far from the center it can deviate, and it will spawn there. The velocity is also supposed to be random here in my case, and I'm just telling it go a little bit up, go a little bit to the front, and go a lot to the side. And that's once again the range of how much it can deviate. And tada, you have a blimp spawned and ready to go on your track. Isn't that cool?